The xTool O1 Omni comes in 3 editions. Now, before you buy one of them, whichever one you pick, you need to know a couple of things. It's really important to know you cannot change your mind later. So once you pick one, that's it. There's no way to upgrade or reconfigure it later. So I'm doing this video now because I'm seeing a lot of people who are about to buy the wrong one, and I don't want it to be you. So let's make sure you are going to buy the one that you need. So the thing is, the Omni is an entry-level machine, which means this is probably maybe your first UV printer or your first DTF printer or your first DTG printer or all 3. Now, lucky for you, I have multiple UV printers, DTG printers, and DTF printers, and multiple hybrid machines. So part of my job today is helping you to untangle those words, because once they make sense, the buying decision is going to be a lot easier. So first, if you are confused by all of these O1 Omni modes and models, you're not alone. And it's not you. xTool markets this Omni as the world's first 4-in-1 printer. And there are a lot of different terms flying around: UV, UV DTF, DTF, DTG. They all sound alike, and they honestly all mean totally different things in the context that they're used. I'm going to take a minute here to really dive in and drive these home to help define the terms for you, because a firm understanding now is going to help you in your buying decision when you are ready to ultimately decide. So DTF means direct to film. It's a printing process that means you're printing directly to film regardless of the type of film, meaning you can say technically that you're doing DTF when referring to any type of film. So that's sticker film or heat transfer film. That's where a lot of that confusion comes in. So for a lot of people, though, who are in the consumer market, DTF has become synonymous with heat transfers, like the noun, not the verb. So even though that's a limited meaning, basically a lot of people just say, oh, I'm going to order DTF transfers, when really they mean they are ordering direct to film heat transfers. So I don't want you to be confused when you see that all 3 models can print UV transfers, because that UV is really important. It means UV DTF sticker transfers, not heat transfers. And there's only one model of the Omni that can print DTF heat transfers. Okay, so why it's so important now to understand this is that xTool has made it clear in their own FAQs, you cannot buy the single UV and upgrade to the dual, or buy the dual later and convert it to fabric. The print head and the ink setup is basically fixed at the factory. So you need to pick the right one the first time. That alone is why understanding these terms and what each model can do is really so important. Okay, now, as I'm sure you know by now, there are the 3 editions. There's the single UV, the dual head UV, and the UV+DT Fabric. The model name literally is referring to the print heads. So the single UV has one single UV print head. The dual UV has 2 UV print heads. And the UV+DT Fabric has 1 UV print head and 1 fabric print head. So these aren't really step-up models in the way that we often think, like say the xTool M2 laser, where there's a 10 watt, a 20 watt, a 40 watt option. No, these are all different. They're actually just basically different machines, but they all start the same, okay? So the first model we're gonna talk about is that single UV. At launch, the price is going to be $16.99 with a higher MSRP later, according to the June 30th press release that xTool put out. This model, as I said, has 1 print head configured as CMYK, white, and varnish. So it is for UV printing on hard surfaces like wood, acrylic, glass, metal, hard phone cases, signs, and tumblers. It can also print things like UV stickers, which are often called UV DTF transfers. These are permanent stickers. The process is done by printing directly onto a adhesive sheet that's going to be laid on the platform. The ink is laid down, the UV light cures the ink, then you take that sheet off the bed and run it through a laminator, sold separately. This sandwiches the sticker between 2 clear sheets. The top sheet then becomes the transfer sheet, while the bottom sheet, the one that you actually printed on, that's where the adhesive for the sticker comes from. So these are UV DTF stickers that basically go, again, on anything hard that you can print on. So like cups, tumblers, there's wraps, laptop stickers, water bottle stickers, even for cars, right? So despite their name and the process name being UV DTF transfers, they are not heat transfers for shirt or apparel. Totally different thing, despite that DTF and transfer name basically in the name. Okay, the dual head UV, which is launching at $26.99, is different. It has 2 UV print heads. The second print head is the different one. That one has specialty ink. It also, the first print head is the same as the single. The second print head is configured differently, okay? That one has the advanced UV techniques in it, thanks to the flexible white, rigid white channels, and fluorescent and yellow. First of all, I want to clear up a few things on the fluorescents. xTool is marketing them for neon and backlight effects. Honestly, they're completely underselling this. When you have fluorescent inks in a printer, you greatly expand the color gamut of your CMYK. Whoa. Did you ever try to print like a hot pink or a turquoise with a CMYK printer and that the colors are just flat? That is because you have a limited color palette, gamut, if you will. The CMYK alone can't reach those ranges, but with fluorescent ink, it expands the colors that you can print. So yes, the backlight effect is a nice touch, but fluorescent ink has an even bigger benefit that I think a lot of people probably don't realize or are overlooking. Okay, flexible ink. What the heck is this? And why is it not the same for fabrics? Okay, the standard white UV ink is for hard surfaces that do not bend. So there's no risk of the ink when it's cured cracking. But when you are printing on a pliable materials, and I'm not talking about fabric materials like cotton, I'm talking about leather patches or canvas or silicone type phone cases that bend, right? Anything that bends, has give, or has a little bit of roll to it, flexible ink is ideal because it bends with the substrate instead of cracking when that item is bent or curved. So think about printing on a leather patch. It's flat when you're printing, perfect. But when you apply it to a hat, it has to bend around the surface, and that flexible ink bends with it. So flexible ink is not brittle or not as brittle when it is cured like standard UV ink would be, and that's why it's so beneficial. Finally, we have the UV+DT Fabric model, which is going to launch at $27.99. This model has that same print head 1 that we talked about. Print head 2, it has 2 different types of ink from the other 2 models. Instead of having the specialty UV inks, so no flex ink, no fluorescent, it has fabric inks. That means this is the only edition that touches apparel. It adds a dedicated fabric print head for DTG, direct to garment, and DTF, direct to film transfers for shirts. So really, this is the actually only true 4-in-1 Omni model. It does both UV and UV DTF, both from print head 1. Then it adds DTF and DTG from print head 2. That is the 4 methods of printing of 4 different processes in the one machine. But it still doesn't do it all because that other model, that dual UV, does the flexible. This is really important because it doesn't have flexible ink or fluorescence. So there's no model that literally does everything. Even that like everything machine that we're hoping doesn't actually do everything. So xTool is putting that 4-in-1 label on the whole line, which is I think where a lot of people are getting confused because there isn't one that just literally does everything. Now, right now we're talking exclusively about the UV+DT Fabric model, and I want to really focus on that second print head. We already have a good understanding of DTF, but DTG, it stands for direct to garment. It is the process of printing directly to fabric, and I actually have 2 DTG printers in my office. Both are Epsons. I'm very familiar with this process and some of the pros and cons with this process. Now, I grabbed this shirt because I want to show you a couple things. So before you decide if this model of the Omni is for you, I want you to go in with your eyes wide open about DTF and DTG printing. So here's the thing. Do you see this shirt? Let's talk about it. It is not as simple for DTG to just throw a shirt on a platen and print. If you did that, the ink would seep into the fibers of the shirt like you see over here. You'd get a dull, muddy mess. All right, that's what happened on this one side. Now, I did this intentionally so you could see. On colored or dark shirts specifically, DTG requires you either use pre-treated garments or you pre-treat them yourself. So pre-treat is a liquid that's either sprayed or rolled onto a garment. It's cured then with heat to basically create an invisible layer on the top of the shirt fibers that allow the ink to sit on top of the fibers instead of being absorbed into them. So this is how you get vibrant DTG, like you see on the other side. The key thing to know though, is that if you don't pre-treat evenly, you will end up getting these blotchy DTG prints. So after the print is done, you have to cure it, which is usually in a heat press. It's not yet clear if the UV light on the Omni will do that, but I'm thinking that it probably won't because it's a different type of ink. Now, DTF, remember here we're talking about direct to film heat transfers. Totally different than the UV DTF sticker process we talked about a few minutes ago. Okay, so for DTF transfers, what you would do is you would place a DTF film sheet or roll on the bed. CMYK prints first, white on top, opposite of UV DTF. Powder then needs to be applied to the white. When the powder is cured, it heats into like this, or it melts into this orange peel consistency. That is what becomes the adhesive when the transfer is flipped over and applied to the shirt or the fabric. Now, keep in mind, the O1 Omni UV+DT Fabric model can only do the first part of this process, the printing. It has no built-in powder shaker or curing oven, which means you will need to hand powder the transfers and then cure them in either a heat press or a transfer oven, okay? So as someone who has tested dozens of DTF printers, and I'm gonna say this, the only one I regularly use is my xTool apparel printer. And the reason is because it is hands-off. I send it to print a DTF transfer and I get a finished transfer completely done 10 minutes later. Every other DTF transfer printer I've used and tested from half a dozen brands, Mamaki, Roland, ProColor, Uninet, DTF Station, they have all required hand powdering and curing in an oven, and it's time consuming, hands-on, and messy. There are obviously other options, but the price point is way higher. So my point in all of this is be aware of what you are getting. And if you want the ability to print occasional DTF transfers, then the hybrid model of the Omni may be a good option for you. But if this is in no way going to be high volume, okay? And if that's what your business needs or focuses on, then get the xTool apparel printer. And if you still want the Omni, I'd go with either the single or the dual UV models instead. One last thing I'm gonna say is that hybrid machines in a real everyday business workflow can only do one thing at a time. So if you are printing a UV print on it, you can't be printing a DTF transfer at the same time. So unless you have a dedicated machine that can run both, that is where you are gonna see the production boost. So don't tie up a hybrid machine trying to tackle two focuses of your business and think you're gonna grow, because the only thing that you're gonna unfortunately end up doing is slowing yourself down. All right, let's try to make this simple. I know I've given you a lot of information, so let me help you figure out what your business actually needs first, then pick. You're gonna buy the single UV if you mostly do flat, hard goods, signs, stickers, tumblers, UV DTF decals. Save the $1,000, you probably don't need the second head. If you want this dual UV, that's gonna be if you print flexible materials like leather and canvas, if you want a larger color gamut, or if you're gonna be doing heavy embossing or texture work, right? Don't buy it just hoping for faster flat printing. That I went over extensively in my other video, which I will link to in the description below. Speed is not really being featured there. Buy the UV DTF fabric if you want occasional apparel alongside hard goods and you understand the full DTF and DTG workflow. I would not buy it as a replacement for a dedicated apparel printer if you're doing a lot of DTF. One big question I keep getting right now, because like I said, I have a lot of UV printers, including, I know, the UV+ E1. I have a UV printer. People say, I just want to add shirts to my business. Is the Omni good for me? Honestly, again, if apparel is your bread and butter, your money is better spent on the dedicated apparel setup. You already solved the UV side. Don't buy a hybrid machine to do a thing that a specialist does better. And a lot of you are asking if you should sell your current UV printer. Obviously, that's up to you. Here's my take. And I own both an E1 and an apparel printer, and I use them both completely separately. I also use the E1 with my xTool lasers. Yes, they can do print and cut too. So it is possible, fast, and easy. So just really know that if your current UV printer is working for hard goods and what you actually need is an apparel printer, adding the Omni UV+DT fabric doesn't really solve that. You'd still probably want a dedicated fabric apparel machine. So you want to match the tool to the job. One does everything box usually means compromises. As I said, you can only do one process at a time. All right, so here's the bottom line. The Omni is genuinely versatile, but versatile is not the same as a replacement for all your machines. So you want to pick the edition that fits the workflow for you the best, because you can't upgrade later. And if apparel is your main business, seriously, please look at the dedicated apparel printer. I don't want you to make an expensive mistake on a hybrid machine. If this has helped you avoid buying the wrong one, love for you to hit subscribe. I've got lots of hands-on testing coming. The machine will be here in the next week or so. If you're still not sure which edition would fit your business, drop your main products in the comments and I'll help you walk through it. Also keep in mind, I do offer one-on-one consulting, coaching, and personalized help through Silhouette U. I will put the link in the description below as well. And I hope to see you guys soon.